What's up guys, Jeff here, and today we're going to be taking a look at something that is in this package. So let's go ahead and open it up. It's getting a little dull. It's not good. Awesome. Alright, so we are going to be taking a look at the Hanna Instruments handheld color meter, which is going to measure low range nitrate. Pretty awesome. This is pretty new to market, so we're going to go ahead and open this guy up. Pretty interested in taking a look at it, seeing what it has to offer. Unlike most color meters from Hanna Instruments, this one seems like it has a whole lot of things going on. Got some reagents here, pads, a couple of syringes, pipette. So what I'm going to do before we get too far into this is I'm going to go ahead and read the instructions before we get going with this, because there's a whole lot going on. Alright, so we gave the instructions a little bit of a read. Now I got some water from the tanks, and we're gonna go ahead and try this guy out. One thing I forgot to grab was scissors. So when you first look at this, it looks a little bit overwhelming, but I can assure you that it is, or at least we'll find out together. But from the instructions, it seems relatively simple. So one thing that I first thought of when I heard of low range nitrate tester, in a lot of scenarios that's probably not even going to apply to me, because I tend to have higher nitrates in my tanks. But you do have the ability to test tanks with higher nitrates with this. There's a couple of videos out there as far as diluting the water. Specifically, all you're doing is you're taking about a millimeter, 1 millimeter of your tank water, and then diluting it into clean RO salt water, and then going through the same testing process as you would with the low range. And then when you get your results, let's say, for example, you have 1.50 as your results, you would multiply that by 10, and that would give you your results for everybody else in the world. So there's a few people out there that have the ability to have their nitrates in check, and this is going to be a great tool for them, but this is also going to be a great tool for everybody else too, because all you have to do is dilute it, follow the instructions, and essentially all you're doing is adding 1 millimeter of tank water to the remainder of newly mixed salt water with RO water, and going through the same test or the same process as far as testing goes, and then multiplying your results by 10, and it's going to work for everybody. So Hanna Instruments has put together a color meter nitrate test kit. It's not just low range, it's for everybody. It's going to work out for them just the same. So alright, so let's kind of talk through some of the instruments that you have here. This is your mixing vial right here. These are the tester vials. You're only going to use one. It's not like the old ones where you had, or at least what I did was I would do one with just regular old salt water in there, and then have one mixed up and ready to go, so it was like a quick test. Through this entire process, you're only going to use one of these, so that's pretty interesting. Then you got a pipette. The pipette is more specific to the regular, like folks that don't have low range nitrate. You're going to use that to mix your water. So we got a couple syringes in here for different parts of the test. This portion I was kind of thrown for a loop. So this is basically a filtration device for the first step of the mixing of the reagents. You actually have to filter out the reagents in using this to add to one of your vials. So, and then outside of that, you got reagent A. reagent C and reagent B. I mean, when you first open this up, it's kind of intimidating. Like Hanna Instruments, folks that are unfamiliar with those kind of are sometimes, but once you've done it a couple times, it gets pretty easy. One thing that I've always loved about these is that they provide the battery. It's very important. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get some salt water, and then we're going to go through the testing process. I'm going to get a screwdriver that's small enough to work in that, install the battery. We're going to test some salt water from one of my aquariums, see how it's doing. My assumption is it's going to be pretty bad because it's been a minute since I've done a water change on that tank, but I need to get this tank back in check here because I'm going to be doing some different things with it here soon. So hopefully, you know, having something like this, even though this looks pretty complicated, having something that's easy and quick to use is going to make quite a bit of difference when it comes to testing and knowing where your levels are. Alright, so we got our instructions handy, close by. We installed the battery, pretty simple to do. The battery face, when you have it upside down, the battery faces up, so that's something to keep in mind. So when you hit the on button, the first thing it's going to be asking for is C1, which is going to be our first step in the reagent mixing process. So we're going to grab our 10 millimeter vial, open that up, have that there, and then we're going to need we got some tank water here in a graduated cylinder off to the side. We're going to need 7 millimeters of tank water. We're going to add that, and then we're going to add 4 millimeters of reagent A. Alright, so we got our 7 millimeters of tank water there. If you were doing the diluted method, you would basically take 1 milliliter of tank water, put it in here, and then fill it up to the 10 millimeter line, mix it, and then reuse the blunt syringe, pull out 7 milliliters, discard the remainder 3 milliliters, and then put the 7 milliliters back into the mixing container. At this point, from here on out, it is exactly the same between the two different measurements. The only thing that's going to be different for the diluted method is that you're going to be multiplying your results from your color meter by 10. So not terribly difficult. Thought it was going to be a lot of math and like charts and stuff like that, looking at it to figure out what you need, but multiplying your results by 10, it's pretty simple. Alright, so we're going to grab reagent A, which is the liquid container, and we're going to pull out 4 milliliters of this to put into the mixing container, which we're going to use the 5 millimeter syringe to do that. So at this point we've put A into the mixing container, and now we need to get our B reagent. Alright, so it's been about a minute. Now we're going to let that sit for a second, and then we're going to put a filter pad into the filter assembly. Place that directly in there. We're going to screw down. It's very important to make sure that that's not disrupting that gasket or sitting up on the edges. You want to make sure it's directly in the middle. It even has a little bit of lettering on there to let you know that that's the top. And this syringe portion is what's going to go into your vial that actually goes into the Hanna Checker. Alright, so we got that all installed, ready to go. We're going to take our 10 millimeter or 12 millimeter syringe, reinstall the metal tip to it, and we're going to take up 10 millimeters. Put that off to the side. So we're going to disconnect this tip. We're going to put on filter connection, unscrew this guy, and we're going to put it over the top and then very slowly push down, and it will slowly enter the vial. Cap it, wipe it real quick with a towel, make sure there's nothing on there. Then this guy, because I took so long, went to sleep on us. It's asking for 1. I'm going to put 1 in there. Close it. Zip. gonna do its thing here, and it's blinking right now. It's kind of hard to pick up at this angle, but I don't want to create a bubble by trying to show you guys. But when it's ready for container 2, we'll have to add reagent C and then hit the button again. Alright, so now it's saying C2, so it's ready for reagent 3, or I'm sorry, C. Try to get away from that cut line. Alright, cut it. And then we're going to cap it and mix this guy for 2 minutes. Alright, so we got the capsule back in there. So we got the vial back in the checker. We hit the timer on it. And one thing that I do want to mention is very important that you press and hold that button once it asks for C2. I didn't do that, and I ended up shutting the unit off and had to restart all over from scratch. So very important. So we're going to let this timer go, and we'll come back and check the results. Alright guys, so the test results are in, and it's blinking 5.00%, which really isn't a shock to me, because my tank typically runs between 10 and 15 parts per million as far as nitrates go. And I think it probably would have been better served to do the diluted method of testing my nitrates in the tank. But this really is just a representation of what this product is all about and what it can do for you. So when I first saw this product, I was kind of bummed out that it was just a low-end nitrate tester. But the reality is that it can test both low-end, ultra-low nitrates. It also can test, if you use the diluted method, your typical nitrates. You just have to take your results and times it by 5. So let's say my test results on the diluted method were 1.50, times that by 10, that would give me 15 parts per million. So this test kit really is going to work out for anybody. So if you guys want to check this product out, there's going to be a link in the description below, which will bring you to Premium Aquatics, where you can do some more research or pick one of these guys up for yourself.